Welcome to Sleepy Sails, where bedtime stories take you on a journey to dreamland. I'm Liam, and I'll be your guide tonight. Get cozy in bed and listen to my soothing voice as I tell you stories to help you relax and have a peaceful sleep.
Once upon a time, in a small village nestled in a valley surrounded by towering mountains, lived two young friends named Emma and James. They had grown up together, playing in the fields, picking wildflowers, and exploring the nearby woods. As they grew older, their friendship deepened, and they became inseparable.
Emma was a bright and cheerful girl, always ready to lend a helping hand to anyone in need. James, on the other hand, was a quiet and reserved boy, but he had a heart full of love and kindness. They complemented each other perfectly, and their friendship was the envy of everyone in the village. One beautiful spring day, while they were walking through the forest, they came across a clearing filled with wildflowers of every color. Emma's heart swelled with joy at the sight, and she twirled around in the midst of the flowers, laughing and dancing. James watched her, enchanted by her joy and beauty. He had always thought of her as a friend, but in that moment, he realized he was in love with her. He could not take his eyes off of her, and the longer he watched her, the more his heart raced. As the sun began to set, they sat together on a nearby rock, watching the colors of the sky change. Emma turned to James and asked, "What are you thinking about, my friend?" James took a deep breath and confessed his feelings to her. "Emma, I have always thought of you as a friend, but now I realize that I am in love with you. I cannot imagine my life without you, and I want to be more than just friends." Emma was surprised by James's confession, but she realized that she too had feelings for him. She smiled and said, "James, I had no idea you felt that way. I have also realized that my feelings for you go beyond friendship. I would love nothing more than to be with you." From that day on, James and Emma were inseparable as they explored the world around them and discovered the joys of love. They walked hand in hand through the meadows and watched the stars twinkle in the night sky. They knew that they had found their soulmate in each other, and nothing could ever break the bond they shared. As they grew older, James and Emma decided to get married in a beautiful ceremony in the village church. All their friends and family came to celebrate their love, and the entire village was decorated with flowers and lights. Emma wore a beautiful white dress, and her hair was adorned with wildflowers. James wore a handsome suit, and he had a big smile on his face as he waited for Emma to walk down the aisle. When she appeared, he gasped at her beauty and felt his heart swell with love. They exchanged vows and rings, promising to love and cherish each other for the rest of their lives. And as they kissed, the entire congregation erupted in cheers and applause. After the ceremony, they held a grand reception in the village square, with food, music, and dancing. Everyone had a wonderful time, and James and Emma were the happiest they had ever been. As they settled into married life, James and Emma built a cozy little cottage on the outskirts of the village. They spent their days tending to their garden and taking long walks in the countryside. And every night, they cuddled up together in bed, talking about their hopes and dreams for the future. One day, Emma announced that she was pregnant, and James was overjoyed. He couldn't wait to become a father and raise a family with the woman he loved. They spent months preparing for the arrival of their little one, painting the nursery, and reading books on parenting. Finally, the day arrived, and Emma went into labor. James was by her side the entire time, holding her hand and offering words of encouragement. After a long and difficult labor, their beautiful baby girl was born. They named her Daisy, after the wildflowers that Emma loved so much. As Daisy grew up, she was the apple of her parents' eyes. She had her mother's bright smile and her father's kind heart. James and Emma spent all their time with her, teaching her about the world and showing her the beauty of nature. Daisy loved spending time outdoors, playing in the fields and exploring the woods. She had a curious and adventurous spirit, just like her parents. One day, While they were out on a hike, they came across a hidden waterfall deep in the woods. Daisy was enchanted by the waterfall's beauty and wanted to get closer to it. James and Emma hesitated, knowing that the rocks around the waterfall could be slippery and dangerous. But Daisy was determined, and eventually, they agreed to let her explore, as long as they stayed close by. Daisy climbed down the rocks, giggling and laughing as she got closer to the waterfall. But suddenly, she slipped and fell into the water. James and Emma rushed to her side, pulling her out of the water and checking to make sure she was okay. She was shaken but unharmed, and they quickly headed back home. But that night, as they tucked Daisy into bed, she started to cough and wheeze. James and Emma realized with alarm that she must have caught a cold from her fall into the water. They stayed up all night, watching over her and making sure she was comfortable. Over the next few days, Daisy's condition worsened, and James and Emma knew they had to take her to the doctor. The village doctor examined her and prescribed medicine, but her condition continued to deteriorate. They sought out other doctors, but none of them had a cure for what ailed her. James and Emma were beside themselves with worry. They had never felt so helpless before. They prayed to the heavens above for a miracle, but none came. They watched as their precious little girl grew weaker and weaker. One day, as they sat by Daisy's bedside, James had an idea. He remembered a story his grandfather had told him about a magical flower that could cure any illness. He had always thought it was just a fairy tale, but he was desperate enough to try anything. He set out into the woods, determined to find the flower. He searched for days, wandering through the forest and climbing over mountains. He was exhausted and hungry, but he refused to give up. Finally, he came across a field filled with the most beautiful flowers he had ever seen. They were white and golden, with petals that shone in the sunlight. He recognized them as the flowers from his grandfather's story and knew he had found what he was looking for. He picked a bunch of the flowers and hurried back to the cottage. Emma was overjoyed to see him and the flowers, and they brewed a tea from them. They gave the tea to Daisy, praying that it would work. Slowly, Daisy's condition began to improve. Her coughing stopped, and she started to regain her strength. James and Emma watched in amazement as the magic of the flowers worked their miracle. Soon, Daisy was completely healthy again, and she was back to her old adventurous self. James and Emma were overjoyed to have their little girl back to her old self. They were grateful for the miracle that had saved her life, and they knew that they had been blessed with a special kind of love that could conquer any obstacle. From that day on, James and Emma treasured every moment they had with Daisy. They continued to